All right, start a new week here on the Morning Pitt on YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com. And I got to think, if you're a Pitt fan of any size, shape, or color, you probably had a pretty good weekend, given what the Panthers did to Syracuse on Saturday, late afternoon, early evening. And obviously, we've got a lot to talk about as we get started here with this new week. Of course, you know what we always say: like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. The like button is down to the left, subscribe button is down to the right. Somebody actually posted on the message boards Saturday, I think, Saturday night, hey, where's the Jeff Capel press conference? Why haven't I seen the press conference video yet? And I think we had just recently finished uploading it, and it was processing, and we were just about to post it on the message boards. And what he said is, look, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, you turn on the notifications, you'll get an alert sent to your phone every time something new gets posted. So you don't have to worry about, hey, I missed the link, or I didn't see the message board post, or this or that. I'm tired of clicking refresh on your YouTube page. Well, click subscribe, turn on notifications. You won't miss anything. You'll get an alert every time we post something new. One of these Morning Pitt videos, Monday through Friday, or a press conference video, or a post-game video, or a practice interview, any of those kind of videos that we post. And of course, when we go live for our weekly live show every Wednesday night at 8:30 right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It'll be slightly different this week. And I'll mention this a few times leading up to it, but since Pitt plays at Notre Dame on Wednesday night, that overlaps with our regularly scheduled 8:30 p.m. start time for the Panther-Lair show. So we will just do that one as a live post-game show when the Pitt-Notre Dame game is over. So probably should have done a live post-game show after Saturday night's game. Didn't do it because that one went a little bit late as far as the work hours that we were putting in. But we'll definitely have one after the Pitt-Notre Dame game on Wednesday. I'm guessing there will certainly be a lot to talk about that night because Pitt's got a lot to play for. And we have, of course, we're going to be talking about that here today. And I think that's really the first place we have to start when we're talking about this game against Syracuse on Saturday. I mean, there's a million storylines. I mean, it was a storybook ending to the home schedule, in just about every way possible. I mean, from the seniors, from the second half performance to the crowd, the zoo, the atmosphere, the energy, Aiden Fish. I mean, you run down the list of possible good things that could have happened to Pitt in that game, and they pretty much all happened, and most notably the win. And then even a bunch of things that needed to happen for Pitt outside of the Peterson Event Center. A whole bunch of those happened as well. North Carolina beat Virginia. Florida State hit a buzzer beater to beat Miami. That was hilarious. If you were following that Florida State-Miami game, I think that one started at 4, so you kind of kept an eye on the first hour or so, or somewhere around there. And I mean, that was like 50-25 at halftime. It was 50-25. Late in the first half. I forget what the exact halftime score was. You thought, oh, Miami's killing them. There goes that hope. You needed Miami to take a 5th loss so Pitt could have sole possession of first place in the conference and have a real, keep alive those hopes of, winning the ACC. But there was Miami like doubling up on Florida State at halftime. I thought, there goes that. That's out. And then the Pitt game started, and we're watching that. And every now and then, we're kind of glancing back, and all of a sudden, Florida State's closing in. And, there were a few of us in the press box. We have the game up on our laptops. We're watching the Pitt game because we're there. It's the first half. It's an interesting first half. Pitt's only up by 4 at halftime. But we're also kind of keeping an eye on this Florida State-Miami game because, boy, the Seminoles are making it very, very interesting. And then just as the Pitt game goes to halftime, Miami hits a 3-pointer with 4.9 seconds left in the game. You say, well, and to take a 2-point lead on Florida State. You say, well, there goes that. And actually, I don't even think the horn had sounded on halftime yet at the Pitt game. It was really up and down, looking at the Pitt game, looking at this Florida State game because it was a really interesting game. And Miami hits that 3-pointer. They got a 2-point lead. It looks like it's over. The horn sounds on halftime in the Pitt game, so those guys are walking back to the locker room. You're watching this final Florida State possession thinking, well, the Seminoles came up just short. But in 4.9 seconds, they dribble down the court and throw up a prayer, and it goes down. And if you happen to be, and I don't know why you would, I hope you wouldn't, actually. If you happen to be looking at the press box, in that particular moment, you would have seen a bunch of people freak out because, like I said, a bunch of us had our laptops open. I had to watch ESPN or whatever app going, and I think we all just almost fell out of our chairs. We couldn't believe it that Florida State made that shot. So Florida State wins. You needed that to happen, or you wanted it to happen. North Carolina wins. You needed that to happen, or you wanted that to happen. More importantly, Miami loses and Virginia loses, and leaving Pitt in position to take sole possession of first place in the conference with a win over Syracuse. And so all of these things just came together. And there were so many things that worked out just exactly perfect for Pitt on Saturday. But I really think it starts with where it ended, with Pitt in first place in the ACC. As remarkable, as maybe unlikely, but as unrealistic as it seemed, it is now very real. Pitt is 14-4. Ahead of Miami, who's 14-5. Ahead of Virginia, who's 13-5. Ahead of Clemson, who's 13-5. Miami's off until next Saturday when they host Pitt, but Virginia and Clemson both have 2 games left. Wait, do they play each other? I should have looked at this ahead of time. But yeah, Virginia hosts Clemson on Tuesday night. So one of those teams is going to drop to 6 losses. You know, NC State lost, so they're now down to 7 losses. Duke has 6 losses. So, you know, in theory, I mean, realistically, like there's still a possibility of a 5th place finish for Pitt, a number 5 seed, if they were to lose the next 2 games, and you know, I guess if Virginia beats Clemson, so Clemson has 6 losses and Pitt has 6 losses and Duke has 6 losses, you know, Pitt could potentially end up with the number 5 seed, I guess. I think that's highly unlikely to happen, but it's at least on the table. Also on the table is a share of the ACC regular season championship, an outright ACC regular season championship, and the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. If Pitt wins at Notre Dame on Wednesday night, they clinch at least a share of the ACC regular season championship. A share. And they're playing for sole outright possession of that title and the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament when they go to Miami next Saturday. It's unbelievable. And I mean, there's time after time after time this season we've said, can you believe how far they've come? Think about where we thought they were going to be, and for them to be at this point, it's amazing, it's incredible, it's unbelievable. But it's all of those things. I mean, it still is true, no matter how many times we've repeated it, no matter how many times we've said it, no matter how cliched it seems to have gotten, it's still true. This season, you know, if you spent the bulk of the last 2 months waiting for Pitt to fall off, it didn't happen. And every time you thought it might happen, like when they lost to Clemson and Duke back-to-back, or when they lost to Florida State at home, or when they lost, you know, at Virginia Tech last Saturday, and then followed it up with a less than impressive win over Georgia Tech at home. Every time you thought they were going to fall off, they came back and were even better than ever. You know, they lost those 2 games, Clemson and Duke. They go down to Georgia Tech and win by 11. They beat Louisville by 20 on the road. Bounce back. Then they lose the Florida State game. You say, okay, maybe they're swooning again. Maybe they're falling off. They rattle off, you know, wins, impressive wins over Wake Forest, Miami, and North Carolina before they pummel Louisville, get revenge on Florida State, and beat up on Boston College. They have this little swoon here that, you know, last week where they lose at Virginia Tech, and they, you know, 8-point win over Georgia Tech where they didn't look like they were the best team for all 40 minutes, and they come back and hand Syracuse a 17-point loss where they almost dropped 100 on them, and it felt like about a 37-point loss for Syracuse. It looked like a 37-point win for Pitt because they dominated to that extent. This team hasn't gone away. They haven't wilted. They haven't faded. They've just kept winning. And so as we go into this last week, and look, it was, you know, I heard it going into Saturday. I heard it going into the Syracuse game. This is going to be a tough one. I don't know. This is going to be a closer game than a lot of people think. And a lot of people felt that way, and I sort of had suspicions myself. The line wasn't that great. You know, and like I said, Pitt was sort of, if not struggling, their play had taken a little bit of a step in the previous week. You know, a step back. So I wondered what it was going to be like. But they went out and took care of business. And so they're going to this game on at Notre Dame on Wednesday night. And again, it's Mike Bray's last game in South Bend. That team's going to be fired up. They're going to be emotional. You got to look out. Well, you know what? I mean, I understand that. You know, maybe Notre Dame is emotional and fired up, and they're going to play hard for Mike Bray in his final game. This is a team that's won 2 ACC games so far. Notre Dame's 2-16 in conference. Mike Brey has been retiring all year. This is his final game in South Bend, but it's not like he just announced that he's retiring right now. If these guys were going to manufacture emotion and play hard for Mike Brey, you'd think at some point over the last 18 games they would have done it more than twice. But instead, Notre Dame is 10-19 overall. They're 2-16. They're tied for last place in the ACC with Louisville, who also is 2-16. I'm not going to say that it's a gimme. I don't think there's any game in this conference that's a gimme, and you're certainly going on the road, and you're going to have to, that's always a challenge when you play an ACC game on the road. But if Pitt is who we think they are, if Pitt is who they've shown themselves to be over the last 29 games, certainly the last 25, then they should go out to Notre Dame and take care of business. And this game against Miami next Saturday should be for all the Tostitos. And it's funny, and I'll probably make this joke multiple times this week, probably at least once every day, but it's funny after years of trying to force a Pitt-Miami regular season finale to actually mean something in football, and it never did. There have been significant games in football in the regular season finale. I think, Pitt got to bowl eligibility in 2014 by winning at Miami. Pitt obviously had the huge game in 2017 when they handed undefeated Miami their first loss, and it was Kenny Pickett's breakout game. This past year was a big game for Pitt to go down to Miami and win. But it's never meant anything in terms of the ACC. It's never meant anything in terms of the Coastal Division Championship. But they kept forcing it. They kept putting these games at the end of the regular season. Pitt Miami, this one's going to mean something. Well, they never did. Now, in basketball, it does, and it will. And I'm fairly confident that Pitt's going to go out to Notre Dame and take care of business on Wednesday night. I have no such predictions about this trip to Miami on Saturday. And that's not to say that I have no confidence in Pitt's ability to win. I believe this team can play with anybody they face. They might not beat everybody they face, but they can play with anybody they face and give themselves a chance to win almost every game. But I have no idea what's going to happen on Saturday. Got to get past Wednesday first. But in the meantime, you can go to the ACC's website, theacc.com/standings.aspx?path equals MB ball. You can scroll there. It's the 2022-2023 men's basketball standings. And it's your Pitt Panthers. 14-4, 21-8, top of the conference. And that's something to see. It really is. So that was what the result of Saturday's game was. And to me, that's the biggest story right there. But it's not the only story that came out of that game. Obviously, it was senior night. And, I don't think you can say enough good things about the seniors on this team. Nelly Cummings, Jamarius Burton, Greg Elliott, Nike Sabandi, and everyone's favorite, Aiden Fish. And there were some eruptions at the Peterson Event Center. There were some roars. There were some moments where it got as loud as it's ever been in that building. The media used to sit down basically courtside, in the corner by the visitors' bench, where the visitors' bench used to be before they flipped the court. And it got loud down there. Being on the court level, it got really, really loud. On Saturday, now the media, after they flipped the court, the media is now up, I don't know, between the 100 and 200 level, I guess. Suite level, I'm not sure what it's called. But we're up there. And I don't know if it was louder than when we used to be courtside. I don't know if it was as louder than it was in 2009 or 2004 or 2003 or pick your year, 2012, whenever. I don't know if it was louder than it was then, but it was close enough that it'll do. And for all the eruptions in that game, for all the crowd explosions and roars, there might not have been a bigger one than Aiden Fish using a crossover to get in for a layup, a ball that bounced on the rim, the final bucket of the game to make the score 99-82. And that moment, it was such a celebration for the entire team, the players, the coaches, for the fans, for the Oakland Zoo, for everyone in that building. 12,500 and some people. Add in all the support staff and everything else. Who knows? You might add 12 and 3/4. You had a lot of people in that building. And that moment was the moment for them because it was the icing on the cake. It was the capper on the game. And it was just an incredible moment. All these seniors combined, Fish with his 2 points, plus Nelly Cummings with 14, and Greg Elliott with 19, and Burton with 14, and Sabandi with 10. Combined, 59 out of Pitt's 99 points came from the seniors. Cummings had 14 and 13, put up 13 assists, his first career double-double for Nelly Cummings. Greg Elliott scored 19. 17 of those came in the second half when he made 5 of 6 from 3. Jamarius Burton, they initially called him 14 points and 9 rebounds, but there was one that was pretty clearly a rebound for Burton. It got tipped to him from, it was a Syracuse shot. I think it was a Syracuse shot. Actually, it might have been a Pitt shot that Blake Hinson tipped, and Burton grabbed it. And they initially ruled it a rebound for Blake Hinson. And then after the game, they changed the stats. And I don't know if they changed it just to get Jamarius Burton his double-double or not. But he ended up with 14 points and 10 rebounds. And then Nike Sabandi scored 10 points. I want to say like 8 of those were in this 2-minute stretch early in the second half that were just, it was dynamite. It was 2 3-pointers, and in between was that alley-oop off the inbounds pass. That if the Aiden Fish bucket was the loudest roar in the game, the alley-oop dunk from Nike Sabandi was the second loudest. And it was the loudest until Fish scored that bucket. It was, I mean, the place blew up. Just like they blew up on every 3-pointer in the second half. I mean, it was a sensational crowd with great energy, and they loved what they saw from the seniors. And, like, you know, this isn't your traditional senior class. Greg Elliott, this is his only year playing for Pitt. Nelly Cummings, his only year playing for Pitt. Jamarius Burton's been here for 2 years. Nike Sabandi for, 3 years, I think. Aiden Fish has been around for a while, but as a manager and then as a walk-on, now a scholarship player. You know, so it's not your traditional senior class. Boy, these, you know, where you say these guys have built the program over the last 5 years. These guys are the foundation of what has happened and been built, you know, over this span of time. Because none of them have actually played for Pitt for 5 years or 4 years. And for the most part, they're all, you know, recent additions the last couple of seasons. But it is impossible to, I think, overstate the impact that they've had. And we've talked before about, you know, this guy, that guy, ranking players, X Factor. I've ranked the newcomers a number of times with you know, Cummings and Elliott as the seniors in that group, plus the twins and Federico and Blake Hinson. And I still put Hinson at the top of that list. But when you talk about the impact that a guy like Nelly Cummings has had, and it's on the court, you know, again, you saw it on Saturday, 14 points and 13 assists. But it's off the court, and I think you can sense it. You hear him talk, and you see the way he plays. You watch what he does. He creates an attitude for this team, and he's not the only one who has this attitude and has this kind of energy, and you know, I don't know what the right word. Toughness, I guess, is one word that we would use on it. But he's a fighter out there, and a leader, and I think the team follows his lead. And I think there are a bunch of good leaders on this team. I think Jamarius Burton is a great leader for this team. I use the term a stoic hoops monk, which I think is what Jamarius Burton is. But I think Nelly Cummings is the, you know, down and dirty, gritty street fighter who will go out and lead this team and will will them to some things. And Jamarius Burton will will them to some things. Blake Hinson will will them to some things. Nike Sabandi will take over games for stretches. They've got a lot of guys who are willing, able, and looking to make a play when the team needs a play to be made. And they're, you know, willing to look for other guys who will make those plays too. If Jamarius Burton has an opportunity to make a play, but Nike Sabandi has a chance to make a better play, he'll give the ball to Sabandi and be happy about it because the play gets made. I just think, you know, I mean, it's obvious and silly to say that what this team has achieved this season, they don't achieve without these seniors. But I don't, you know, but even if that's obvious, even if it's silly to say, I don't think that makes it any less worthy of saying. I mean, they are leading this team back to the NCAA tournament. They're leading this team to a potential ACC championship. They're leading this team to success it has not experienced for 7 years. And I thought it was great that the crowd showed up, that they were there early. The cheers during senior night were everything they should be. And look, we've seen some pathetic senior days and senior nights. Look at football. Like the crowd, and there may be 12,000 people who show up for senior day for football, which is about what you had for senior night for Pitt basketball. You're talking about a much bigger stadium, but I mean, it's a paltry showing. Nobody comes to those senior day festivities, and they should. I mean, these are players, for the football side who, for the most part, have given 4 or 5 years of their lives to this football program and the success that it may have enjoyed over that span. But people never show up, and so it's pretty, I don't want to say miserable. I mean, it's still a celebration of these players and their careers, but it's not the celebration that it should be, and it's not the celebration that we saw on Saturday when it was a packed house, admittedly smaller numbers than you're going to have at the football stadium, but a packed house and a loud crowd really showing their appreciation to all of these guys, to Nike Sabandi, to Greg Elliott, to Aiden Fish, to Nelly Cummings, and to Jamarius Burton. They got the gratitude, the appreciation, and the celebration that they deserve because of what they've done for this program this season. They've made Pitt basketball fun again. And I guess now that Pitt is sitting here at the top of the ACC with 2 games left to play in the regular season, seemingly a lock or a near lock for the NCAA tournament, with a real shot at the ACC regular season championship, with a real shot at the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. I guess I'll say it. I'll say that Pitt basketball is back. I was holding out. And you know what? Now, I'll say it. I'll say it for today that they're back because it was hard to walk out. It was hard to be in the Peterson Event Center on Saturday and not think, yeah, this is what Pitt basketball is supposed to be. This is what Pitt basketball was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when it was great, when it was one of the premier attractions in this city. On Saturday, it was one of the premier attractions in the city. And it was pretty outstanding. It was a great place to be. It was a great game to watch. And now, 2 regular season games on the road left to find out what this team's fate is going to be. And then into the postseason to really write the final chapter. All right, we'll have lots of Notre Dame preview stuff and more thoughts on the Pitt basketball team over the next 2 days right here on the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Subscribe button is right down there. Click that thing. Turn on the notifications. You get an alert sent right to your phone every time we publish some new content, whether it's a Morning Pitt video Monday through Friday every morning, or a post-game press conference video, or interviews, or we go live for our live Panther-Lair show. Like I said, we'll be live after the Notre Dame game on Wednesday night. Not at 8:30, probably like 9:15, somewhere around there. We'll do a post-game show to talk about what happens in South Bend, and then we'll have one after the Miami game as well. I kind of think we're probably just going to do a post-game show after every game from here on out. Notre Dame, Miami, ACC tournament games, NCAA tournament games. And if they play a 2 o'clock game in the afternoon, we'll do a post-game show at 4:15. If they play a noon game, we'll do a post-game show at 2:15. We'll do post-game shows, live post-game shows from here on out because it's going to be interesting. Every one of these games, whether there are 4 more games that are played or 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What? I can't even do the math. Another 10 or 11 games left to play. I forget how many games do you play in the NCAA tournament? I can't do the math off the top of my head. But whether there's 4 more games that are played or 10 more games that are played, we're going to do a post-game show after every single one of them. So you can look forward to that. Hopefully you can join us right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. But hope you had a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed that game on Saturday. I don't know how you couldn't unless your favorite color is orange. And I'm guessing if you're watching this video, then it probably isn't. So thanks for tuning in this morning. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great start to your week. And we'll be back tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.